Islamic terrorism claims another American. A missionary is killed in the Philippines just as he feared and predicted in a dramatic CBS interview just months ago. The president's big news security agency. A look tonight at a critical part of the plan. Can it work? A quarter of a century after the crime. A surprising verdict today in a high-profile murder trial with a Kennedy connection. And he could win the Triple Crown. They bet on his father and won big.
This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. Authorities say it wasn't a planned rescue attempt. They say it was a chance encounter deep in the jungle between U.S.-trained Philippine Army commandos and a band of Islamic terrorist guerrillas. The encounter quickly became a battle, and in the middle of the fight, 2 kidnapped American missionaries. 42-year-old Martin Burnham was killed, his wife Gracia wounded. CBS News national security correspondent David Martin reports tonight on the latest casualties in the war on terror.
They brought the wounded and the dead out of the jungle, casualties of a firefight, just as the Burnhams had predicted months before when their captors showed them off to a Philippine television crew.
One of these days, in one of these encounters, those bullets aren't going to whiz past our heads, and we're going to lose our lives, and people are just going to say, oh, well, there went the Burnhams, too bad. You know, they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
We would request that the operation please stop.
But the operation didn't stop. Aided by U.S. training, equipment, and intelligence, the Philippine Army relentlessly pursued the Abu Sayyaf terrorist group, which had taken the Burnhams hostage more than a year ago. Philippine troops finally caught up with them today.
There was a firefight, several minutes of firefight. Then after the firefight, we recovered the victims, the kidnapped victims.
Pentagon officials say no American troops were involved in the operation. The Philippine troops simply came upon the terrorists as they were tracking them through the jungle. It's not clear whether Martin Burnham was caught in the crossfire or murdered by Abu Sayyaf.
It wasn't a rescue attempt, just a surprise encounter in the jungle. There will be second guessing of the Philippine Army's actions, but not by Martin Burnham's father.
The real enemy is the Abu Sayyaf, who were ruthless killers, and so we're not going to say one thing or other whether anybody did the right or wrong thing.
U.S. Special Forces had gone to the Philippines to open up a second front in the war against terrorism. To the Burnhams, it only added to their peril.
So we are aware of the tragedy in New York on September 11. But please, we're individuals.
Don't make it hurt us.
Yes.
Don't make another tragedy out of what happened.
But that's exactly what it was, another tragedy in the war between America and Muslim terrorists. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
You may want to note that the Philippines is almost 86% Roman Catholic, but Islamic influence has been growing in the southern part of the country. The Philippines is made up of more than 7,000 islands stretching down close to heavily Islamic Indonesia. In the battle against terror in this country, President Bush went out campaigning today for the new Department of Homeland Security and, of course, for Republican candidates in this year's election. As John Roberts reports tonight, there are many questions about whether and how this big new department would work.
President Bush took his plans for Homeland Defense to the American people today, urging Congress to approve swiftly the massive reorganization. And he is under no illusion that the process will be easy or smooth.
This is going to be a tough battle because we're going to be stepping on some people's toes. I understand that.
With 88 congressional committees and 8 federal departments affected by the changes, the turf wars will be inevitable. But the more troubling battle may be over intelligence. The FBI and CIA weren't included in the restructuring, yet will be expected to be the prime suppliers of intelligence to a new analysis center at the Department of Homeland Security. The chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee says there could be problems.
We've had this culture of agencies hoarding their own information now for over 50 years, so it's not going to be quickly obliterated just by making organizational changes.
The CIA and the FBI now talk like they've never talked before. In other words, we've learned lessons from what took place prior to September the 11th.
President Bush insists the historic adversaries are now cooperating. Yet in the days leading up to congressional hearings, the FBI and CIA were leaking documents to the media, each trying to blame the other for intelligence lapses prior to September 11th. The Department of Homeland Security adds yet another competitor to the mix, says intelligence expert James Bamford, one that appears to mirror the CIA's Counterterrorism Center.
That's what the original idea of the Central Intelligence Agency was to centralize intelligence and do the central analysis of it. And it's very confusing when you have another agency that's supposed to be doing what it sounds like, identical work.
President Bush wants Congress to approve his plan by the end of the year. And while Congress says it would like to do that, the deeper it gets into it, the more questions are being raised, which could significantly slow down the process. Dan?
John Roberts reporting live from the White House. The trial had everything you need to capture national, even international attention. An intriguing murder mystery, big-name lawyers and investigators, and a Kennedy connection. Today, as CBS's Randall Pinkston reports, there was a verdict in the trial of Michael Skakel.
It was the night before Halloween 27 years ago when 15-year-old Martha Moxley was found beaten to death outside her home in upscale Greenwich, Connecticut. Among the suspects, her next-door neighbor, Michael Skakel, also 15, a nephew of Ethel Kennedy. After nearly 3 decades of investigation, prosecutors finally filed charges against Skakel 2 years ago. And today, the son of wealth and privilege was found guilty, handcuffed, and taken to prison.
Today, like I've been doing for 27 years, I'm praying that I can find justice for Martha. You know, this whole thing was about Martha.
You know, this is bittersweet. This is not going to make us, not going to bring Martha back.
Some credit a TV crime show and a book by disgraced Los Angeles detective Mark Furman with reviving interest in the case. At trial, the only physical evidence was the murder weapon, a golf club, which prosecutors said belonged to Skakel's mother.
By a very simple process of elimination, it was Michael Skakel who was wielding it.
Skakel's prints were not found on the club. There was testimony that questioned Skakel's alibi. All circumstantial, argued the defense, but the jury bought it.
This is certainly the most upsetting verdict I've ever had or will ever have in my life. But I will tell you, as long as there's a breath in my body, this case is not over as far as I'm concerned.
The first step for the defense appealed the ruling that allowed Michael Skakel to be tried as an adult. But the prosecution makes no apology for the decision.
The people that should best answer that are the Skakel family, because they're the ones that made the decision to duck justice 27 years ago.
Ironically, if he had been prosecuted and convicted as a juvenile in the 1970s, Michael Skakel would have been out of prison by the time he was 21. Instead of facing a possible life sentence at age 41. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, Norwalk, Connecticut.
On the CBS Market Watch, a losing week for Wall Street. The Dow dropped 35 points today, closing below 9,600 and finishing the week with a loss of 3.5%. The Nasdaq fell 19 points today. The Nasdaq is off 5% for the week. The government reports a surprise drop in unemployment in May to 5.8%. It may or may not be a trend. Anthony Mason reports that this small drop is small comfort to many just diving into the labor pool.
In an annual rite of spring, more than 1 million college graduates have been grabbing their diplomas and hitting the job market. But this year, many aren't smiling.
3 months ago, I was hoping I'd have a job the week after I graduated, but now I don't know. It could take months.
Biology major Ashley Smith graduated from Atlanta's Emory University last month, hoping for a career in pharmaceutical sales.
Engine on the bus goes vroom, vroom, vroom.
Instead, she's volunteering at a vacation Bible school and still looking for work.
Sometimes it's discouraging, especially when my family is really gung-ho about me getting a job.
But Ashley is hardly alone. The job outlook for the class of 2002, says Columbia University's Christopher Pratt,
is probably one of the worst that we've seen in the last 10 or 20 years, maybe 30 years.
The students who enrolled in the midst of a dot-com bubble and a booming economy are now graduating into a whole new world. The unemployment rate, near 6% nationally, is double that for recent college graduates. A survey by the National Association of Colleges and Employers found companies expect to hire 36% fewer college seniors this year, so they're also recruiting less.
Students have seen the opportunities for employers coming to campus where they can have face-to-face interviews decline dramatically.
How much?
I think it's as much as 50% in most cases.
So in Atlanta, Ashley Smith is sending out hundreds of resumes.
That's basically my full-time job right now.
And trying to keep her confidence up.
You can't help it, you know, the economy goes up, the economy goes down. One day I'll get a job, and I think it'll be a really good one when I get it.
But for now, many in the class of 2002 find their futures stalled in an economic slowdown. Anthony Mason, CBS News, New York.
In a rare move, a drug withdrawn for safety reasons is going to be marketed again, but with restrictions on who can get it. Lotranex, a treatment for a serious digestive disorder, was pulled after 7 users died and others had serious side effects. But some users lobbied the FDA and the drug maker to make it available again, saying only Lotranex gave them relief. Up next here on the CBS Evening News, a battle over this incredible paradise could lead to the horror of nuclear war. And then later, Eye on America. News of the environment and nature, sea creatures under attack from the tiniest of killers, and you should care.